Welcome to the first chapter of this 3-chapter M-STEP administration training. In this first chapter, the tasks that need to be completed before testing begins are covered. Chapter 2 will discuss during testing tasks, and Chapter 3 discusses tasks completed after testing. To begin, this before testing presentation will share what is new for the 2025 administration, resources that will help you throughout test administration, important information about student supports and accommodations, how to complete before testing tasks that are done in the OEAA Secure site and in the DRC Insight portal, and finally how to prepare students and staff for M-STEP administration. What's new? We'll start with what's new this year for M-STEP testing. The first thing to note is that the former Read by Grade 3 law has been changed, and it is now called the K-12 Literacy and Dyslexia Law. In this presentation, we will only discuss how the changes impact the M-STEP Grade 3 ELA assessment. There are several other updates as a result of this law which can be found on the MDE Early Literacy webpage at www.michigan.gov/early literacy. For the M-STEP reports, all students who score not proficient on the Grade 3 ELA test will be identified to receive intervention supports. These students' parent or guardian will also receive the TSP letter this summer. To support all test administrators in receiving the same M-STEP test administration training, all assessment coordinators are now required to use the Test Administrator Training Toolkit resource, which is provided on the M-STEP webpage at www.michigan.gov/MSTEP. Scroll down to the Assessment Training and Resources for Educators section and select Test Administrator Toolkit for Building Coordinators. There is a PowerPoint template that includes all of the required information that all test administrators must be trained in, and it includes slides you need to edit to provide your building or district-specific information, such as your testing schedule. There is also a test administrator training checklist that is modifiable. This is a handout to provide to test administrators to verify they are prepared for the M-STEP test administration. The DRC Insight testing engine has been updated to enhance accessibility features. There is a presentation that details all of these changes that is available on the M-STEP webpage at www.michigan.gov/MSTEP, which is also linked in the PDF download of this presentation. We will go through a few slides to cover the major updates to the testing engine, but this presentation provides more detail about each update. First, the action and tool buttons are moved. It's all grouped together as you can see here in the upper left corner of the student's screen. This is both the universal tools and support students have access to as well as the navigation buttons. You can see in this image that the item layout and formatting has not changed. Settings are accessed in the upper right corner under the gear circle. For audio settings, you just select the gear circle and then students can change the volume or speed of the audio. The audio tools, stop, pause, and starting points, are in the top middle of the screen for student use anytime they are listening to audio. Sticky notes are replaced with the notepad. Students can enter notes for each item on the notepad. Notepad entries are saved and remain available only on the item where the note was created. Students can create more than one notepad on each item, and they can access them while on the item the note was created on. For computer adaptive tests known as CAT tests, this means that when the student moves from one item to the next, they may no longer access that note. This functionality is the same as the previous sticky note functionality. The highlighter tool has changed and displays pink highlight in the DRC Insight Enhanced Student Experience. The color options available for students using the color preferences designated support have changed for spring 2025. This image shows the 3 color options available. Black text on a white background, this is the default, black text on a light blue background, or purple text on a green background. On fixed form tests, which include all science and social studies tests and some accommodated versions of the ELA and mathematics assessments, the review screen has had a significant update. First, the table shows unanswered questions that provide links directly back to return to those questions, and any items that are flagged are indicated in the table. The table filter, in the upper right corner, provides easy sorting for students to review flagged answers and unanswered questions. The Enhanced Student Experience is available now in the Online Tools Training and M-STEP tutorials. These can be used with staff and students before testing to ensure a smooth testing experience. This slide shows the links to access these resources and provides directions. You can access the Online Tools Training (OTTs) from the M-STEP webpage. Following the directions here, scroll down to Content-Specific Information, And in that list, find online practice for MSTEP ELA, Math, Science, and Social Studies. This will open the web page that includes the link to the OTTs. Just make sure you are using a Chrome browser. The MSTEP tutorials are accessed from the OTT landing page. Finally, you can view the complete introduction to the enhanced student experience from the link provided. That's available on the MSTEP webpage under the What's New and Current Assessment Administration sections. Also new in spring 2025 is the ability to unlock any fixed form test by calling the DRC call center as long as the two listed conditions are met. The student has not provided a response for every item on the test, and the test has not previously been unlocked. This should help speed up the process to get students started testing again. If a student has provided a response for every item, or if the test was already unlocked, you can still submit an incident report in the OAA Secure site, and MDE reviewers will respond to those on a case-by-case basis. All students must have headphones for listening to the test directions, to listen to ELA listening items, and any student with text-to-speech assigned needs headphones during the test. Requirements for the headphones that are allowed have been clarified for assessment coordinators and test administrators to better determine whether students' existing headphones are allowed. This is not a change to policy, just a clarification that was needed. First, wired or wireless headphones are always allowed. Bluetooth headphones are allowed as long as two requirements are met. First, they must only be connected to the student's testing device, and the second requirement for Bluetooth headphones is that all of the student's electronic devices, like cell phones, smartwatches, tablets, or anything else with Bluetooth connection capabilities, must be powered off throughout the test. Finally, all headphones with advanced technology like voice commands, texting, app connections, or that can connect to the internet are not allowed during testing. New in spring 2025, there is only one online test administrator's directions and manual document. This is because the screens that test administrators read before the TTS for directions begins are the same across the grades and content areas. This is not the case for paper/pencil test administrators' directions and manual documents. Those are still grade-specific, because directions are read aloud in their entirety and have changes by content area and grade. Next, we're going to go over some changes for paper/pencil testing. With the new vendor DRC, it'll be important that you pay careful attention to changes to materials and other paper/pencil tasks this year. There are several changes and updates that you need to be aware of throughout test and when it's time to return materials. First, barcode labels are unique by student and content area. It'll be important that you put each barcode on the answer document that is indicated on the barcode. You can't print more than one of the same barcode for a student and apply it to multiple answer documents. Another important thing to note is that the size of the barcode labels is significantly different now. You can only use the blank labels that are printed and shipped by DRC if you need to print barcode labels locally. These are orderable from the additional material order page in the Secure site if you find that you need more. Word process documents cannot be scored. Everything has to be transcribed into the student answer document. Make sure you read and follow the instructions for materials return in the Test Administration Manual, TAM. This year, several things have changed, and it will be important that you follow all directions explicitly. First, the return vendor is UPS, and we are using UPS-RS labels. They are included with your initial material order if you ordered any paper/pencil materials. If you don't initially order paper/pencil materials but then later order them during the additional material orders, then they will be included in that order. We'll no longer write "do not score" on the top of an answer document that shouldn't be scored. Instead, use the labels that are provided in your material orders. There is no longer any need for a special handling envelope, and answer documents must be returned in the clear bags that are provided. The important thing to remember is to make sure you read the Test Administration Manual if you had any students testing paper/pencil this year, when it's time to return your materials. Important resources and information. Next, we're going to discuss important resources and information that will support you throughout test administration. Test administrators can read the Assessment Security for Test Administrators appendix to fill their assessment security training requirement. This document condenses all of the information from the Assessment Integrity Guide that test administrators need to know into a few pages. The document is found as an appendix in all of the test administrators' directions and manual documents, the MSTEP Test Administration Manual, and the Assessment Integrity Guide. Test administrators can still choose to complete the MDE Assessment Security modules through Michigan Virtual in place of reading the Assessment Security for Test Administrators document. They are only required to do one, not both. The requirements for assessment security training for district and building assessment coordinators have not changed. They must complete the MDE Assessment Security Training modules on Michigan Virtual and read the Assessment Integrity Guide. If you have previously completed the full Assessment Security modules, then you will be delivered the refresher course. The Assessment Coordinator Training Guide provides information that takes assessment coordinators through the tasks and responsibilities done before, during, and after the administration of all of Michigan's statewide summative assessments. This will help you with MSTEP and all of the other Michigan statewide assessments. If you are a new assessment coordinator, it is suggested that you progress through the entire training guide in the order presented. For returning assessment coordinators, this guide can be used as a refresher. You could use sections of this guide as you approach each task, or if you run into difficulty with any assessment administration task, you can use this document as a reference material. While this training guide provides training for each task that must be done, it is not intended to replace the testing manuals, guides, and other test administration-related resources that are provided. You can find this guide through the link at the top of all assessment pages. The Assessment Coordinator Training Guide webpage also includes a link to bookmarks that you can download and save to your web browser for easy links to many assessment-related websites. Other important resources for you to review as you prepare for the test administration are the Guide to State Assessments and the Assessment Integrity Guide. The Guide to State Assessment includes detailed information about state assessments and is important to review. The Assessment Integrity Guide provides information on the prevention and detection of testing irregularities and guidance for follow-up and resolution of any identified testing irregularity, in order to ensure all procedures before, during, and after the test administration lead to student results that accurately reflect a valid and reliable measure of each student's unique and true educational knowledge, skills, and abilities. The Assessment Integrity Guide has been updated for the spring 2025 administration and should be reviewed for the updated testing policies. You can find these documents plus assessment security training by going to the MSTEP webpage. The link for the Assessment Security Modules registration is under the Assessment Training and Resources for Educators section. The MSTEP Test Administration Manual includes detailed guidelines for before, during, and after the MSTEP test administration. The Test Administration Manual provides information about the test administration policies and procedures, as well as step-by-step information for each assessment task that needs to be done before, during, and after testing. Checklists are also provided in an appendix, with links to each task, to help you keep track of everything that needs to be done. You will also find test administration policies, including the scratch paper policy, calculator policy, and electronic device policy, information about supports and accommodations available for the MSTEP assessment, and the incident reporting table that includes potential test irregularities and their resolution for both paper/pencil and online test administrations. The electronic device policy provides clarification regarding expectations for students and staff. For students, non-testing electronic devices are not permitted during testing. They must be turned off and stored away from the work area. Testing devices cannot be used for anything other than testing during the test session, even if the student has submitted their test. During the test session, no games, internet, or other sites or applications can be accessed. For staff, the important takeaway is that attention must be focused on monitoring testing during administration. Cell phones should only be used in an emergency situation. Wearable technology is discouraged, however, if worn, it must be set to airplane mode. Test content cannot be recorded in any way, and test administrators cannot do other work while monitoring the test administration. The Active Monitoring Best Practices appendix provides detailed descriptions of administration practices that are required. Then, best practices are described, practices that are acceptable, and finally, prohibited practices listed. To help facilitate faster processing of incident reports, this appendix details the information that needs to be included in the most common types of incident reports. Those types are test not completed, which is typically unlock requests, prohibited behaviors, issues with accommodations or designated supports, and technical problems. There are also links provided for each regeneration request type. This way users can gather documentation and send it when it's convenient instead of having to wait for MDE staff to attach it in an email. The Test Monitoring Application Appendix provides detailed, step-by-step instructions for how to set up the Test Monitoring Application, TMA. It also provides screenshots for setting up the TMA, and for the screens viewed by test administrators and screens viewed by students. The
Test
administrators are not
Spring
required to read the
2025
TAM.
administration
Instead,
is available on the
all
MSTEP
test
webpage
administration
at
information and policies that test administrators
also
need to
available
know
as
to
an
administer
appendix
the
in the
MSTEP
TAM.
are included
To view
in
it
this
on the
one
webpage,
document.
select
There
List
is
of
only
important
one
dates
online
in the
test
current
administrator's
assessment
direction and
administration
manual
section.
document.
Then you can choose
and the
important dates
paper/pencil
documents according
test
to your need and
administrator's
preferences.
directions and manual
There is
documents
also an
are grade
Excel
specific.
spreadsheet that includes
It is
the
required
important
that
dates
test
for every
administrators
statewide
read this
assessment
document prior to
administered by
administering the
MDE.
test. This way, users can filter the dates according to the assessments and assessment windows they will administer. For example, an assessment coordinator who is responsible for all middle and high school testing could filter on MSTEP. PSAT 89 for Grade 8, PSAT 89 for Grade 9, PSAT 10, SAT and ACT. Instructions for how to filter the Excel spreadsheet are included on the second tab, which is highlighted in red. In addition to the PDF and spreadsheet, a Google Calendar is also available that includes important dates by assessment program. The Google Calendar includes links to resources and help documents for each task. You can download the calendar and add it to your Google Calendar to display the important dates for each assessment program you are responsible for. Test administrators are not required to read the TAM. Instead, all test administration information and policies that test administrators need to know to administer the MSTEP are included in this one document. There is only one online test administrator's direction and manual document, and the paper/pencil test administrator's directions and manual documents are grade-specific. It is required that test administrators read this document prior to administering the test. Off-site testing is for schools that cannot test on-site at their school buildings. Off-site testing is used for virtual schools, schools that offer virtual instruction as their educational program. Off-site testing also occurs for individual students. When a school is providing educational services to a homebound student, students are suspended during the testing window, or students are expelled with services. The Off-site Test Administration request is found under the Assessment Registration tab in the OEA Secure site. Select Off-site Test Administration request. The window to submit Off-site Test Administration request is open now through May 15th for online testing and through May 1st for paper/pencil testing. Student Supports and Accommodations Overview. I'm going to take a few minutes here to review student supports and accommodations. During testing, issues with supports and accommodations are frequent testing irregularity that is reported through our incident reporting tool. An accurate identification of student-designated supports and accommodations before testing begins can help prevent a lot of these issues from occurring. So I'm going to walk through what they are, some suggestions for helping keep track of what supports each student needs, and then how to assign them in the DRC Insight portal. First, when we speak about universal tools, these are tools that are available to all students. An example of this would be the highlighter. It's available on each item on the online test for all students, and schools are allowed to provide highlighters for paper/pencil testers to students. Just make sure they're not using it on the answer document. This is a tool for everyone. Students can use it if they find it helpful. Designated supports are available for students based on their specific need. These are decided by educators, and they should be supports that are used in day-to-day instruction. The most common example of a designated support is TTS for items only. Again, this should be decided individually by student, never assigned to a whole class, grade, or content area. And it should be something that the student is using in day-to-day instruction. Finally, accommodations are available for students whose IEP or 504 plan documents the need for this accommodation. An example of this would be the multiplication table for grades 6 and 7 mathematics. It is only allowed for students who have an IEP or 504 plan, and that plan must specifically indicate the need for a multiplication table during MSTEP testing in order for the accommodation to be allowed. To help clarify about text-to-speech, or TTS, there are 3 different types of TTS. TTS for directions, TTS for items only, or just TTS and TTS Passage. TTS for Directions is a universal tool that is required for all students testing online. It does not need to be assigned in the DRC Insight portal. It is provided for all students. TTS is a designated support. It reads only the items on the test and can be assigned based on the specific need of the student. TTS Passage is an accommodation that is available for grades 6 and 7 ELA only. TTS Passage reads the passages and the items. This can only be assigned if TTS or Read Aloud is listed in the student's IEP or 504 plan. This is not available as an accommodation at all for anyone for grades 3 to 5 ELA because it would change the construct, or what is being measured, of the test. This slide reviews what is included for TTS and for TTS Passage. TTS is available in all content areas, and it will read questions and answer options. Science and social studies contexts are also read when TTS is assigned. These tests are assessing student knowledge of science and social studies, so TTS for science and social studies does read the contexts. TTS Passage for grades 6 and 7 ELA will read the passages as well as the question and answer options. It's important that you take time before testing to create a process that you will use to review which tools students are using in the classroom as a first step in thinking about supports and accommodations on the test. Then you should work with your team to determine if there is a match between what is used in the classroom and what is available on the M-STEP. Do not review the list of available designated supports and accommodations and then try to fit them to the student or students. Start with what happens in the classroom, then find what matches in the supports and accommodations guidance. You can find the supports and accommodations guidance document on the M-STEP webpage at michigan.gov/MSTEP under the Student Supports and Accommodations heading. There is some good information in there, including some template documents that will help you keep track of what you should and should not be assigning for students. Make sure you take a look at this document before testing, which means now you should meet with staff who are involved in students' day-to-day instruction, including special education and English learner staff, to determine what students need during testing. Once you have this information, either using the template provided on the M-STEP webpage or in another format that you have, then you should assign all of the universal tools, designated supports, or accommodations in the DRC Insight portal. Once this is done, make sure that your test administrators are made aware of all supports and accommodations that students need in their test sessions. This is important because not every support or accommodation is necessarily delivered through the testing engine, and if there are any issues with anything, the students will be notifying their test administrator. Some schools use Google Sheets or other collaborative software to make sure that everyone's aware of what is needed. Again, you can use this process or another process, but the important thing is that all test administrators know every support and accommodation that each student should or should not have in each test session. This is an important role of the assessment coordinator. Then, once everyone knows everything they need to know, you'll need to make sure they have access to all of the materials to provide the supports and accommodations. This means things like headphones for TTS, or calculators for grade 6 or 7 students who are using a handheld calculator. For online testing, you assign students universal tools, designated supports, and accommodations in the DRC Insight portal to ensure that students receive the appropriate supports during testing. You can see whether a support is a universal tool, abbreviated UT, designated support, abbreviated DS, or accommodation, abbreviated AC, in the DRC Insight portal on the screen where you assign them. Make sure that you are working with educators to assign these appropriately. Also, you must assign all designated supports and accommodations before you print any test tickets. If test tickets are printed before you have assigned designated supports and accommodations, they may not be available on the student's test. For paper/pencil testing, there are 2 important reminders. First, it is required that the assessment coordinator or test administrator complete the bubbles indicating which designated supports or accommodations the student used during testing. Second, when testing paper/pencil, always use the answer document that aligns to the test booklet. For students using accommodated versions of the test, such as Braille, the correct answer document is included in the Braille kit. Use the answer document that comes in the kit to avoid any errors. Test schedules. This section provides information about required test schedules and test time estimates that should be used when preparing your test schedule. Before testing begins, you're going to need to create your building or district testing schedule. These are required to be maintained at the district for 3 years, and they must include the information included on this slide. District and building name, building assessment coordinator's name, the date, location, and starting and ending time of the test administration, the assessment grade and content, and finally test administrator and proctor names for each testing session. There's a template available in the Assessment Integrity Guide AIG on the MSTEP webpage. Again, that's michigan.gov/MSTEP. Under the Current Assessment Administration section, you are not required to use the template. You can create your own, but you need to have this information on it. You can see here the estimates for the time students spend testing. For your schedules, you need to add in time for test administrators to read directions, for students to log in, and for other administrative tasks. There are MDE recommendations for how to schedule in the MSTEP TAM. Also remember that MSTEP is not a time test. Students need to be provided adequate time for them to complete testing. You can see here the estimates for the time students spend testing. For your schedules, you need to add in time for test administrators to read directions, for students to log in, and for other administrative tasks. There are MDE recommendations for how to schedule in the MSTEP TAM. Also remember that MSTEP is not a time test. Students need to be provided adequate time for them to complete testing. For ELA, student testing should take approximately 2 hours. Math, grades 3 through 5 is estimated for an hour and a half, and 2 hours in grades 6 and 7. And science is estimated in 5th grade for an hour and a half. Finally, 60 minutes is the estimate for 5th grade social studies. These are the grade 8 test time estimates. The MSTEP tests are estimated at an hour and a half for science and 1 hour for social studies. You can also see the time estimate for PSAT August 9th is 2 hours and 35 minutes. Remember that MSTEP is not a time test, so these are estimates, whereas PSAT is a time test, so make sure you follow the procedures in the PSAT test manuals when administering PSAT 8 and 9. Here we have MME test timings. And again, the MSTEP times are just estimates as it is an untimed test. This is not the case for other programs, so make sure you're following procedures for the College Board and ACT WorkKeys tests. But for MSTEP, the science estimate is an hour and a half and social studies is 1 hour. As you use these estimates to help prepare for test administration, this slide will help your planning by clarifying which staff are eligible to be test administrators. All test administrators must be trained in the administration policies for the MSTEP administration, read the Assessment Integrity Guide, or complete the Assessment Security Training modules, and read the test administrator's directions and manual documents before administering a test. They must also sign the OAA Security Compliance Form before administering any MSTEP assessment. Test administrators are selected from the list on this slide, which is taken from the Assessment Integrity Guide. Test administrators can be teachers or other licensed educational administrators, paraprofessionals or non-licensed administrative personnel, or substitute teachers. Anyone who administers the test must complete the required training and complete the OAA Security Compliance Form before administration. OAA Secure Site. This section reviews the tasks that need to be done in the OAA Secure Site. Here's the website that you'll want to bookmark for detailed information to perform each of these tasks. michigan.gov/SecureSite Training. This training page has documents and videos of each task that occurs in the Secure Site, including all of the tasks that I will discuss here. Make sure you bookmark that page or make a note of it somewhere. It has a lot of very helpful resources. Again, it's www.michigan.gov/SecureSite Training. The OEAA Secure Site is a site that you will use quite frequently throughout testing. It's an OEAA web application that is used for many testing tasks, and a lot of those tasks are done before testing, but there are also a few during and after testing. This slide sorts these tasks into tasks that are done before, during, and after testing. Before testing, you go to the Secure Site to pre-identify students for state assessments. If you have students testing with paper/pencil, you can print barcode labels from the Secure Site, and material ordering happens in the Secure Site. During testing, off-site test administration requests are completed in the Secure Site. New this year, the multiplication table accommodation requests are completed in the Secure Site, and finally incident reporting is in the Secure Site. After testing, you'll do tasks for the accountable students and test verification process in the Secure Site, and this is where you can access student test scores, download data files, and access the reports that are available in the Dynamic Score Reporting site. You'll need access to the OAA Secure site throughout testing. If you don't already have access, then the Secure Site Training page can help you. Go to michigan.gov/secure site training and click right at the top of the page. How do I get access to Secure Site? The OAA pre-ID'd students based on your Fall Michigan Student Data System, MSDS, General Collection Student Count Day, on January 3rd. There are no additional pulls for pre-ID that are done by MDE after that date, which means that any enrollment changes after this needs to be inputted by you into the OAA Secure site. Depending on the changes that you've had in enrollment and the accuracy of the MSDS General Collection data, for your school or district, you can pre-ID students one at a time using the student search, or if you have a lot of students to add, you can follow the pre-ID file format and template to upload a lot of students. Or if you are confident in the accuracy of the data in MSDS, you can use the MSDS copy function on the Secure site. There are step-by-step instructions available for each of these methods of pre-ID on the Secure Site Training page. Again, it's michigan.gov/secure site training. This is a screenshot of the student search page with obfuscated data on it. That first column lists the student's unique identification code, UIC, and then where the arrow is where the student name is. Then you can see birth date and gender. As a note, you can search by student information, which is what is selected here in the upper left, or by UIC or barcode. MDE does suggest that you use or at least verify the student UIC number. There are a lot of students who have the same or similar name, and even birth date isn't always different among students in the state who have the same name. We get a few incident reports each year where the wrong UIC student has been pre-identified for testing and then they complete the test with the wrong UIC and it's showing as out of level because they took a test that is in a different grade level than the actual student, or the student who was actually expected to test according to MSDS is listed as not tested because the student took the test under the wrong UIC. These are difficult to resolve because it's a manual process to move student test data from one UIC to another, and it is not something that is often done. So be sure that you pre-ID the correct student with the correct UIC, and you can avoid all of that. Once you've found the student and you know that you have the correct UIC, then you can select Pre-ID Student. That is this screen that you see here. You'll need to make sure that you pre-ID to the correct test cycle, ISD, district, school, and grade. Also, you can see the required information is listed here in red. If a student is homeschooled, it is important to change the homeschooled field to student is homeschooled in order to keep their scores out of the district and school aggregate reports. At the bottom left of the screen, you can see other student information, such as if the student is identified as an English learning, former English learner, special education, homeschooled, migrant, economically disadvantaged, homeless, in foster care, or military connected. These fields are updated from the Michigan Student Data System, known as MSDS. Once you select the test cycle, ISD, district, school, and grade level, a section will open showing the content areas and the mode of testing. For the M step, you can change the mode of testing to paper/pencil for the student if needed. You can also enter reporting and research codes at this point, which will allow reports and the data file to filter by teacher, groups, or other data decided by the district or school. Here we will discuss pre-identification using the pre-ID file upload. On the login screen, you can download the pre-ID file upload template. This is important because you need to use this specific layout in order for your upload to work in the OAA Secure site, and you need to follow the codes and abbreviations that are listed in the template. I'll show you a part of the template on the next page. This is just a section of the pre-ID file upload template. You can see that it shows you the field length, the data type to be inputted, and then the field name and the specific information about how to complete each row. You can see, for example, the SDS grade code must be inputted, and you input kindergarten as 00, not K, or just 0. You can also see the requirements for inputting the student last, first, and middle name, and the specific codes used to identify student ethnicity. Again, this is a part of the pre-ID file upload template. If you are going to pre-ID using this method, make sure that you follow the requirements listed here. So here's your pre-ID file upload document. It has the columns already listed. You just input the data according to the requirements listed in the pre-ID file layout. Just as an idea, which at this point would have to be for next year, some schools will maintain this document from student count day in the fall up until it is time to pre-ID students. so that this information has been inputted as students enroll, and then it's all ready to go when you are ready to validate your pre-ID student list. The MSDS copy page can be used without having access to the Michigan Student Data System. It is important to know that when using the MSDS copy page, only students that have been submitted in MSDS at that moment will show in the search results. If the district does not submit new student enrollment in MSDS on a regular basis, the new students will not be included in the search results, and this process will not be helpful. Once you've inputted the information on the previous screen, you will view this screen, again obfuscated for privacy. You need to select the destination test cycle, that is the test cycle that you are pre-identifying the student to test in, then grade and content area. Here you can see the Mass Update Assessment S screen. From here, you can change the testing mode online or paper/pencil. You copy students from MSTEP to MI-Access. Remember when you do this to remove the student from MSTEP for that content area. And you can copy students from one component of MME to another component, all done as groups of students instead of individually. I have a note about pre-identification of students for MI-Access. Each year MDE receives a few incident reports where a student has completed both the MSTEP and MI-Access assessment in the same content area. In order for this to occur, you have a student who sat down twice to take a test in the same content area, which is not something anyone wants to see happen. One reason that this happens is that an assessment coordinator does not remove the student from MSTEP. This is not automatic. Make sure that you remove students from MSTEP who are taking MI-Access in that content area. Another issue can happen if you haven't finalized your pre-ID list before students are pulled into the DRC Insight portal, which this year happened on February 14th. If you have any students who are taking MI-Access in a content area that are still pre-identified to MSTEP in that content area on February 14th, then they will be pulled into the DRC Insight portal. And once a student is pulled into the DRC Insight portal, they cannot be removed. When this happens, if the student is listed in a test session, then there will be test tickets generated and printed when you print the test tickets. Once there is a printed test ticket, it is natural for the test administrator to administer the test, assuming that if a student has a test ticket, then the student should test. One way that some schools have solved this potential problem is to create a test session that is called not testing, or something like that, where they can put those students so that there is no test ticket printed out and therefore no reason for the test to be taken. Remember, accountability calculations are made based on MSDS enrollment data, not what's in the DRC Insight portal, so it is not an issue if you have students who are in the DRC Insight portal as not testing. If you need more information about how to use this screen, there are detailed step-by-step instructions available on the Secure Site Training page, michigan.gov/secure site training. The pre-ID student report is available so that you can view students who are pre-identified for testing, including by grade and content area, mode of testing, that is, paper/pencil or online, and demographic information based on what exists in MSDS. You can use this page to unassign students from an assessment if you notice any errors in your pre-ID list. Remember, unassigning a student from a test in the OA Secure site does not remove the accountability to test. Accountability is based on MSDS information. If you have pre-identified the students correctly, they will be on the pre-ID report. The pre-ID report is by test period. The MSTEP is included in the Spring 2025 MI-Access, MSTEP, Grade 8 PSAT 8/9 SAT. If you have district-level access, you can select District Pre-ID Report from the school dropdown and download a file with the district pre-ID data. Remember, you can unassign students from testing if you see them on this list, but they should not be. This is another opportunity to verify that your students who are taking MI-Access in a content area are not also pre-identified for MSTEP. Search by test period and then select Spring 2025. On the search results, there are tabs that can help you identify possible problems to help ensure students have been pre-identified to the correct assessments and content areas. The results display each student that is pre-identified, the assessment, the content areas, the mode of testing, and some demographic information. If the student demographic information is incorrect, work with your authorized district MSDS user to get the Michigan Student Data System updated. Don't know who your authorized MSDS user is? Click on the Download MSDS Authorized Users button to locate their name and contact information. Barcode labels are required for all paper/pencil M-STEP answer documents. You must have a student barcode label on each answer document. If you pre-identified students and indicated a paper/pencil mode of testing by February 14th, then barcode labels will be printed and shipped with your initial material order. If not, then you have to print them from the OEAA Secure site. Remember to use the labels that are provided for you in your initial material order, or if you need more, you'll need to order blank labels. Commercially available labels no longer fit the printed barcode label size. Here's another reminder about the blank barcode labels that are provided by the vendor. With the new vendor, the size required for printing is not available at an office supply store. You will receive blank label sheets when you order paper/pencil materials. If you need more than those, you can order more from the additional material order page. And a reminder that barcode labels are specific to content area now, too. The content area is printed on the labels, so be sure you're attaching the correct barcode labels to the correct answer documents. To find barcode labels in the Secure site, from this screen you search by test cycle, ISD, district and school, and you can filter your results by student name, UIC, grade, or test mode, paper/pencil or online, to print barcode labels. Initial material orders, IMOs, were done through the OEAA Secure site and are based on your pre-ID counts. Additional materials orders will also be done in the OEAA Secure site. This function is available once the IMOs have arrived in schools. Dates for material delivery are listed here and in the important dates documents. March 24 through 26 is the default date range, and March 31st through April 2nd are the alternate dates, in case your school or district has a conflict for the default dates. Deliveries for additional material orders are based on ordered materials. You can still place material orders if you have any need for additional materials. The window for additional materials orders is listed here. April 3rd through 29. Orders are accepted through noon on April 29th. These dates are also listed in the important dates documents. Every school receives OEAA security compliance forms and test administrators' directions and manuals according to your pre-ID information. Then, if you only are testing online, you'll also get graph paper again according to your pre-ID. And that's it if you only have students who are testing online, which is the vast majority of buildings. For schools that have any students who are testing using paper/pencil, most typically due to a unique need or requirement for paper/pencil testing, then you'll get all of these things listed in the right column: blank labels for printing barcodes, listening scripts and recordings for ELA tests, test booklets and answer documents, of course, pre-printed barcode labels, and the return kit, which includes instructions for materials return and UPSRS labels. Make sure that you inventory all of your secure materials when you receive them. Use the packing slip that's included in your delivery to verify that everything listed on the packing slip is included in your order. If there are any secure materials that are required to be returned to the scoring contractor, such as listening scripts or listening recordings, accommodated versions of the test booklets, etc., that are not returned, you will be required to locate the missing materials. You cannot say at that point that you didn't receive them. You need to tell us that at the time of delivery. If you do your inventory and there are any materials that are on your packing list that you did not receive, call 1-877-560-8378 and select option 1, or you can send us an email at mde-oeaa@michigan.gov so that we can locate the missing secure materials. This is important because failure to return all secure materials may result in the district or school being placed on a future monitoring list. All secure materials must be retained in a secure, locked location within the school. This cannot be just in a locked office, like on the principal or assessment coordinator's desk, because it's possible that the office can be left unattended and the materials are not secure. They need to be locked in a cabinet or drawer when not in use. Next, all secure materials must be distributed and collected each day. Secure materials for online testing are test rosters and test tickets, and any used scratch or graph paper. For paper/pencil testing, secure materials include test booklets, used answer documents, L1 glossaries, any accommodation version of the test, listening CDs or scripts, reader scripts, used scratch or graph paper, and more. Make sure you review the Test Administration Manual (TAM) if you have any questions about what are secure materials. The multiplication table accommodation, which is available only for M-STEP Mathematics grades 6 and 7 for students who have an IEP or 504 plan, and for whom the IEP or 504 team have determined it is appropriate, is requested in the OAA Secure site. To request the multiplication table, after you have logged into the OEAA Secure site, select the Assessment Registration menu, then Material Orders, and then M-Step Multiplication Accommodation Requests. You will be required to select the student or students the request is for from your list of pre-identified students. Once you've selected the student or students, the system will display whether the student is marked as special education in MSDS. This is required for use of the multiplication table accommodation. The last update date from MSDS is displayed. In case there is a data error, or if the student has a new IEP or 504 plan. If the student is not flagged special education in MSDS, but should be, you are still able to download the multiplication table, but be sure it is resolved in MSDS. When you submit the request, the multiplication table accommodation is immediately available for download from the page. There is no waiting or approval process to receive the accommodation. It will be available as soon as you submit the request. This form will be available in the Secure site from March 24th through May 16th, 2025. DRC Insight Portal. Next, we will discuss the tasks that are completed in the DRC Insight Portal. The DRC Insight Portal is the system used to manage online test sessions, assign designated supports and accommodations, to print and manage test tickets, and during testing, to monitor student testing status. Access to the DRC Insight Portal is granted through the OEAA Secure site, based on role assignment in the OEAA Secure site. If you need help getting access to the DRC Insight Portal, go to the Secure Site Training page at michigan.gov/Secure Site Training and select the document under Security called How Do I Get Access to DRC Insight Portal? The DRC Insight Portal is currently available for online test administration tasks. Students who were pre-identified and in the OEAA Secure site were copied into the DRC Insight Portal. For the remainder of the test administration, you still must pre-ID students in the OEAA Secure site, and these students will be copied into the DRC Insight Portal 3 times a day. User access to the DRC Insight Portal is required for both technology coordinators and building and district assessment coordinators. The roles to be assigned in the OEAA Secure site are listed here. They haven't changed from prior administrations. If test administrators are going to use the test monitoring application, they will need to have secure access. Again, if they are not using the test monitoring application, then they don't need secure access. They can access student tutorials, mini-modules, and the test administration manuals, known as TAMs, without access. If they are using the test monitoring application, then they do need access, and they should be assigned either public or non-public online test administrator roles in the OEAA Secure site. Then they will get the email from the DRC Insight Portal with information about how to access their account. This table shows who needs access and the associated secure site role in order for them to have the correct access. Technology coordinators must have access, and the secure site roles they should be assigned are listed here. Either district or school level access, and for school level access it is either public or non-public schools. District and building coordinators also must have access to work in the DRC Insight Portal. They are sorted the same way as technology coordinators, either district or school level access, and the school access is separated into public and non-public schools. Test administrators only need access if they will be using the test monitoring application. If you are not using the test monitoring application, there is no need for test administrators to have secure access. If they are, then they should be assigned either public school online test administrator or non-public school online test administrator roles in the secure site. Once your pre-ID is done, test sessions are set up, and you have assigned all universal tools, designated supports, and accommodations, then you can print your test tickets. A quick reminder, you have to assign universal tools, designated supports, and accommodations before test tickets are generated. If you print your test tickets and then add a support afterwards, the support may not be available when the student logs in to test. To print your test tickets, log into the DRC Insight Portal, select Test Management, and then go to Manage Test Sessions. Complete the administration, entity information, grade, and content area and select Show Sessions. This will bring back all of the test sessions according to your filtered results. You can select Test Session Test Tickets to print, or you can select Print All Tickets to print all of the test tickets for the filtered results shown. Test tickets can also be printed individually. You select the Edit/Print icon shown in the first image, and then select the student or students whose test ticket you are printing, then select Print Selected. The test monitoring application in the DRC Insight portal allows users to view student testing activity during the test session. You can view when students have logged into the test, what item number they are working on, whether they've paused their test, or if they're inactive. These next few screens will discuss how to use the test monitoring application. First, we will discuss how to set up test sessions with or without the test monitoring application. Navigate to the Manage Test Sessions screen so you can show test sessions. Step-by-step directions for this are provided on the slide, but you just log into the portal, select Test Management from the drop-down menu, then Manage Test Sessions. That will let you search for the appropriate parameters and select Show Sessions, so you can view this screen here. This screen has the red box around the test monitoring and restricted access menus. These are related but different boxes. The test monitoring menu is where you decide whether you're going to use the test monitoring application. You have 3 choices. It defaults to none, which means the test monitoring application will not be available for the test session. Select this if your test administrators do not have access or are not using the application. The other options are optional or required. Optional means that a test administrator could use the test monitoring application during testing, but if they choose not to for some reason, students can still log into the test without a monitoring code. When optional is selected, only students who correctly enter the monitoring code will appear on the test administrator's test monitoring dashboard. Required means that the students will not be able to log into the test unless they have the monitoring code. It requires that the test administrator be logged into the DRC Insight portal and provide the students with the monitoring code in order for them to be able to log into the test. Next is the Restricted Access menu. Use this only if you are using the test monitoring application. There are 2 options: false, the default value, or true. True is only an option if the test monitoring menu is set to required. Then, with restricted access set to true, students will be required to enter the monitoring code and will go into a waiting room instead of right into the test when they submit the correct monitoring code. Test administrators will have to admit students to the test from the waiting room. You can choose required in the test monitoring menu and false in restricted access. This would require the students to submit the monitoring code, but then they would log directly into the test without going to the waiting room. We will discuss this more and see these screens on the next few slides. To view the test monitoring dashboard, the test administrator logs into the DRC Insight portal. Then from the My Applications drop-down menu under Test Administration, selects Test Monitoring. That pulls up this screen. The monitoring code is displayed on this screen, marked here with the arrow. This is the code that the test administrator needs to provide to students in order for them to register to the test session. This screen is a sample of when the test session is set up to optional in the test monitoring menu. The student has the box to enter the monitoring code, but it is possible to continue without entering a monitoring code. If the test session had been left at the default of none in the test monitoring menu, then the monitoring code input wouldn't be visible on the screen at all. If the test session were set up to be required in the test monitoring menu, then the Continue button wouldn't be active until the student inputted a monitoring code. If the restricted access menu is set to true, this is the screen that the student sees after they've provided the correct monitoring code. They cannot start testing until the test administrator admits them to the test session from the dashboard in the DRC Insight portal, which we will see on the next slide. This is the test administrator view of the waiting room. The red next to the waiting room tab indicates there is 1 student waiting to test. Test administrators admit students to the test session from this screen. This is the test monitoring dashboard that test administrators can view during testing. It shows students who are logged in, their assessment, test status, navigation in the test, and what item they are working on. The testing statuses are active, meaning they are actively testing, waiting, or in the waiting room; inactive, which means they have not navigated in the test for 5 minutes or longer; paused, they have paused the test; exited, they exited but did not complete or submit the test; and completed, which means they submitted their test. For progress in the test on CAT tests, it displays the percentage of the test the student has completed. That's everything you need to know about the test monitoring application. All of this information is available in the DRC Insight portal user guide, and it's an appendix in the test administration manual, with even more details. There are mini-modules, each no longer than 5 minutes, that explain in detail how to do each function in the DRC Insight portal, including the test monitoring application we just went through. Once you are logged in, go to General Information, then select the Documents tab and filter on Mini-modules and select Show Documents. It is important that students are aware of how the items on the test work and the tools that are available to them before testing day. This ensures that students can focus on the content and not the testing engine on testing day. There are student tutorials and online tools training OTTs that should be used. You can launch Insight, and the tutorials are the yellow link at the bottom, and you can see the OTTs listed under each assessment logo. You can also access them from the MSTEP webpage, as long as you use a Chrome browser. Go to the Parent/Student Information section and select the link Online Practice for MSTEP ELA, Math, Science, and Social Studies. The page that opens has a link to the OTTs on the top portion of the page. To prepare students for testing, MDE recommends that a teacher view the tutorials with students as a class and then models the use of OTTs. Once students are familiar with this, then they should have an opportunity to practice with the OTTs on the device that they will use during testing. The image here shows you what the tutorials look like. They're each a short video that focuses on one thing in the test. They use a child voice, and there is closed captioning on each tutorial. Building and district assessment coordinators are required to provide training to test administrators before testing. Test administration training includes training in all test administration policies and procedures, including the electronic device policy, scratch paper policy, calculator policy, and requirements for the use of designated supports and accommodations. All test administrators must also sign the OEAA Security Compliance Form and read the test administrator's directions and manual documents for the tests they will administer. Assessment security training is also required. One of either completing the assessment security modules on Michigan Virtual or reading the assessment security for test administrator document is required. Not both. The Assessment Security for Test Administrators document is available as an appendix in the Test Administrator's Directions and Manual documents, the Test Administration Manual, and the Assessment Integrity Guide. Here is a reminder about the scratch paper and calculator policies. The full policies are available in the Test Administration Manual and in the Test Administrator's Directions and Manual documents. For scratch paper, it is available as a universal tool. On the mathematics test, graph paper is required for grades 6 and 7 and optional for grades 3 through 5. Don't forget that used scratch paper is a secure material. Be sure to collect after testing for secure destruction. You can find the calculator policy on the MSTEP webpage, in the Test Administration Manual, and in the Test Administrator's Directions and Manual documents. There are no changes in the calculator policy for mathematics or science in spring 2025. Are you signed up for the Spotlight? It's our weekly newsletter that includes all of the important information that you need to know throughout the year. It comes out on Thursday afternoons. If you're not signed up yet, go to michigan.gov/m-step, select the Spotlight logo, and you can sign up there. Thanks for joining me for this first chapter of the 2025 MSTEP Administration Training. You can see our contact information here. If you have any questions, email md-oeaa@michigan.gov or call 877-560-8378 and follow the prompts. Also, if you have ideas, suggestions, or ways that you manage your test administration tasks that you think other schools might find helpful, send us an email. We include those in Spotlight articles, and all of the helpful hints that you see in the test administration manual came from tips from folks from the field. Let us know what's working for you. Make sure that you join me for Chapter 2 of this training, where we will discuss the tasks that need to be done during testing.